Clayton County Sheriff Victor Hill is accused of having county inmates held in restraint chairs for several hours, a big violation of constitutional rights. Here's what you need to know about the case right now. Today, Hill pleaded not guilty on the federal charges. He turned himself in this morning and posted a $50,000 bail this afternoon. Hill insists he will fight the charges. He calls the indictment nothing more than a politically motivated case. Tonight, a former federal prosecutor in Atlanta says he believes the case will be pretty tough to prove, even if prosecutors have video from inside the jail. Here's John Sherrick.
Victor Hill, Clayton County's controversial sheriff, in and out of legal trouble himself over the years, but voters keep re-electing him, now in trouble again, this time charged with violating the civil rights of 4 inmates at the jail.
Victor Hill is not on trial for being Victor Hill.
Atlanta criminal defense attorney Brett Williams, who is not involved with Victor Hill's case, is a former federal prosecutor, and he says he expects Hill's attorney will immediately tell the jury that there is no reason to believe inmates who are accusing the sheriff who jailed them, accusing him of harming them.
As defense counsel, you'd be asking the jury implicitly is, why believe this guy?
Do you feel like your conduct was reckless?
There's an incentive to not tell the complete truth if it will assist in getting the sheriff thrown in jail.
And Williams expects prosecutors will rely on video from inside the jail, possibly showing Hill supposedly mistreating the inmates. But how would jurors interpret video showing what Hill was doing?
I think the case would be far from a slam dunk for the prosecution.
Williams questions whether prosecutors will come up with any hard evidence to prove Hill inflicted bodily injuries on the inmates. And will deputies testify against Hill, possibly to try to save themselves? A trial would be months away at the earliest. For now, under the law, Sheriff Victor Hill faces possible suspension from office while he fights these latest charges against him.